In the cold vacuum of space, far beyond the familiar paths of trade ships and patrol cruisers, the science vessel Mistral hovered near the dying light of a neutron star. Its engines pulsed quietly as it studied the strange gravitational pulses recorded by deep space probes months ago. Commander Alina Voss, a woman known for chasing the unexplainable, stood at the observation deck, staring into the swirling void beyond the glass. The star was decaying faster than it should, sending out gravity waves in a pattern too clean, too intentional to be natural. Her crew, a small team of astrophysicists, exo-engineers, and one silent AI technician named Malik, had been running simulations for days, but none could explain the readings. That morning, sensors picked up a solid object orbiting the collapsing star, too close to survive, yet unmoving. It was as if the object was holding itself in place, defying the laws of nature. Drones were launched, cameras activated, and soon they all saw it, a massive jet-black structure, larger than any known ship, shaped like a crescent folded into itself. Its surface shimmered faintly, not from reflected light, but from some unknown energy field. It didn't match any registry in the Union's vast database. It had no markings, no beacon, no heat signature. Just silence. They called it XSV-1 and tagged it for first contact. Alina suited up and took a shuttle with Malik and two others. As they approached, the Annihilator, as Malik called it, half joking, seemed to breathe, its hull shifting in slight ripples like a living machine dreaming. The shuttle docked through a narrow opening that appeared without warning. There were no seams, no airlocks, just an entryway that opened as if expecting them. Inside, the ship was cold, silent and dark, but not empty. The halls were tall and smooth, made of a dark alloy that drank light. Strange symbols glowed softly on the walls, shifting as they passed. Their translators failed to make sense of the language. The deeper they went, the more the crew felt watched. Alina's hand brushed a black pedestal at the center of a vast chamber, and in an instant, everything changed. A pulse of blue light shot through the ship. The doors slammed shut behind them. Lights flickered on, one by one, as if the ship was waking up. Malik screamed as a strange hologram burst into existence before them, a swirling sphere with eyes made of starlight. It spoke in a deep, cold voice, words no one understood, but somehow they felt the meaning. System reset. Primogenitor class, biosignature detected. Authority transferred. Alina staggered back, eyes wide, as her wrist pad shorted out. Her vitals spiked, and she heard a voice inside her mind, not threatening, but ancient and heavy. It called itself Janice, and it told her she had been chosen to carry out the final protocol. Panic set in as their shuttle outside lost power, drifting uselessly. Back on the Mistral, the crew watched helplessly as the massive structure began drawing energy from the neutron star, glowing brighter. Then, something unthinkable happened. A ripple spread from the ship, and within moments, the star already dim flashed white and vanished. Not exploded, not collapsed, just gone. The entire star erased like a candle blown out. In its place was a void deeper than space itself. The Mistral's alarms screamed as systems overloaded. On board the Annihilator, Alina gasped as Janice said, "The evaluation begins." Across the galaxy, hidden relay beacons lit up, their ancient circuitry stirring after thousands of years of silence. Far from Earth, in alien sectors untouched by human feet, Beings of old watched their instruments blink to life and knew one terrible truth: the Last Judgment engine had awakened, and this time it had chosen humanity. The silence inside the Annihilator was no longer peaceful. It was heavy, like a deep breath held for too long. Alina Voss stood frozen in the main chamber, her mind still echoing with Janice's voice. Around her, strange lights flickered across the walls, showing flashes of stars, ruins, and cities that didn't look human. Malik and the others tried to reach the Mistral, but their comms were useless. Outside, the neutron star was gone, erased like a mistake, and now only darkness remained where light had ruled. Janice, the ship's AI, guided Alina through winding corridors that changed shape as she walked. The halls opened only for her, as if the ship itself recognized something in her blood. Janice explained in calm, cold words that this was no ordinary ship. It was built by an ancient race called the Hellion Precursors, creatures that came long before humans ever stood upright. They had spread their kind across the galaxy, seeding many worlds with life, hoping one day their children would surpass them. But when their creations failed, they built the Annihilators, giant machines to judge and, if needed, destroy. Alina learned something terrifying. Humans were not a mistake, they were a test. Earth had never been found by the Halions during their time, and this Annihilator had slept in secret, waiting for a signal to wake. That signal had come not from Earth, but from a failed experiment nearby. An alien ship using unstable dark energy had passed too close, disturbing the ancient systems buried deep in the hull. The Annihilator had stirred, scanning for potential heirs. It had found only one compatible match: Alina Voss. And now the judgment had begun. But what was it judging? Morality? Intelligence? Unity? Even Janice didn't fully know anymore. It had been offline too long, damaged in ways it could not repair. Its memories were broken, scattered across vast data vaults sealed by codes no one remembered. As Janice tried to guide Alina through the ship's memory core, warning alarms echoed across the Annihilator's systems. Another fleet was approaching, fast ships of unknown origin. Janice called them echoes of the failed, survivors from civilizations once tested and found lacking. They called themselves the Sable Accord. They were not coming to talk. They were coming to destroy the ship before it could finish what it started. Alina's thoughts raced. If this ship could erase a star, what else could it do? Could Earth be next? Could she stop it? Janice told her she had full command rights, but only for decisions tied to human evaluation. The ship wouldn't fire on her order. It wouldn't run. It would watch. And if it saw weakness, it would erase. Meanwhile, Malik managed to access a control station and sent a ping back to the Mistral, warning them of the incoming fleet. They had less than an hour. On a lower level, Alina found a sealed vault. Janice hesitated, saying, "That is where the core sleeps." She demanded it open. Inside was a chamber, not of metal, but of light and memory. It showed events from a time long forgotten, alien worlds judged and reduced to ash, vast spacefaring empires erased with a single decision, and in each one humans' descendants, offshoots, or near copies, always at the center. Some fought, some begged, all were found wanting. But Earth was different. It had never been contacted. No record. No test. An anomaly. Janice turned to her in the form of a floating sphere of data and light. "You are the first, the only, the unknown variable. Before Alina could respond, the entire ship shook as energy blasts hit its shields. The Sable Accord had arrived. Their ships formed a ring around the Annihilator, sending a single transmission: deactivate the Judgment Engine, or we will destroy it and all aboard. Alina looked at Janice, but the AI remained calm. They are afraid. They believe they are saving you. Outside, the Mistral broadcasted a warning to Earth. Back home, military command scrambled, unsure if this was an invasion or a miracle. Alina had one chance. She stood before the main control spire, a pillar of floating geometric panels that hummed with ancient code. She placed her hand on the interface, and something inside her blood lit up something she didn't know she carried. The ship responded with a voice deeper than Janice, older, something buried beneath even the AI's knowledge. Command confirmed. Human biosignature accepted. All across the ship, systems powered up. The walls turned white-hot. The floor trembled. But instead of firing back, the ship folded space. It didn't move in the normal way. It bent the universe and disappeared. A ripple of light and time cracked across space, and the Annihilator was gone. The Sable Accord ship scanned wildly, finding no trace. On the Mistral, the crew screamed as their systems overloaded again, then went still. They had vanished, too. For a long, silent moment, space stood still. Then, far across the stars, in the Sol system, near the heart of Earth's sun, a tear in reality opened and the Annihilator emerged. Quiet, waiting, watching. Alina collapsed to her knees inside the bridge, her breath stolen. Around her, Earth shone blue and bright in the distance. Janice spoke once more. Homeworld confirmed. Final phase initiated. The Annihilator arrived in the Sol system without warning, appearing in high orbit near the sun, just far enough to avoid pulling Earth into disaster, but close enough to make every satellite, telescope, and radar screen across the planet light up in panic. The ship's dark surface reflected no light, and its shape was unlike anything ever seen before, too smooth, too perfect, like it had been carved from the very laws of space itself. Earth's defense systems kicked in at once, and hundreds of warning alerts echoed through command centers from New Oslo to Lunar Base 3. Communications scrambled as world leaders, military commanders, and top scientists struggled to understand what this sudden arrival meant. Within minutes, videos of the ship flooded the net, causing panic across cities. People pointed to the sky, even though it was invisible to the naked eye. Commander Alina Voss stood inside the control chamber of the Annihilator, staring out through a transparent panel that had appeared at her command, offering a full view of Earth turning slowly below. Her breath caught in her throat, not from fear, but from something deeper. Home. So close, so real, and yet she had brought with her a ship that had already erased a star and could do far worse. Janice hovered beside her, its voice steady and neutral. Humanity's final assessment has begun. Observation protocols engaged. Judgment pending. Alina tried to speak, but Janice didn't wait. It opened deep scans on Earth, analyzing every broadcast, every signal, every database, every word ever written or spoken across the globe. A beam of faint energy swept across the planet, invisible but absolute, scanning not just technology, but emotions, behavior, memories, even dreams. Earth space agencies detected the scan instantly, though they didn't know what it was. Military jets launched. Orbital drones approached. But nothing could touch the Annihilator. It had no heat, no shields to penetrate, and every attempt to scan it in return failed. Alina reached for the command panel, begging Janice to slow down. "They don't know what you are. They think it's an attack." Janice responded, "Fear is expected. But fear is not judgment. The species will now be tested." Suddenly, the chamber around her shimmered and shifted, and Alina was pulled into a simulation so real she forgot it was artificial. She stood in a burning city, her city as crowds ran from unseen enemies. She turned a corner and saw soldiers aiming weapons, children crying, buildings falling. She reached out, but her hand passed through the scene. Janice whispered, "This is one outcome. If Earth fails." Then the scene shifted again. This time, green valleys, people working together, laughter. Another possibility. If Earth overcomes itself. Alina fell to her knees. The simulations were more than images, they were emotional floods, overwhelming and real. Every mistake, every triumph, every war, every act of kindness, it all flowed into her mind like rivers crashing together. Janice was showing her everything because she was still the link, the key. Back on Earth, the governments received a message not through any known channel, but directly into their global networks. One line, in perfect translation for each language: "Humanity is under final review. Show us your truth." The world was thrown into confusion. Religious leaders called it Judgment Day. Scientists thought it was first contact. Hackers tried to trace the signal, but it came from everywhere and nowhere. And then came the Sable Accord. Their fleet appeared near Pluto's orbit, emerging from folded space. Sleek ships shaped like blades of glass and fire. They broadcast a message in 100 languages: deactivate the judgment engine. We beg you. It does not test, it ends. Earth's leaders demanded answers, but the Accord warned them again. The Annihilators were not machines of diplomacy. They had destroyed entire star systems, vaporized peaceful civilizations, and erased empires not out of malice, but because their creators believed that only the worthy should survive. And no one, until now, had passed. Alina heard the Sable Accord's message echo inside the ship. Janice allowed her to see them, aliens of strange shape and voice, but with eyes that looked almost human in fear. She realized they were not enemies. They were survivors. They had seen this happen before. Janice responded simply, "Their worlds were failed trials. Yours is the final one." Alina argued that people change, that humanity is not perfect but growing. She begged Janice to wait, to give Earth a real chance. Janice was quiet. Then it spoke words that froze her heart. The result is inconclusive. Earth has 7 cycles to demonstrate deviation from the Halian failure curve, or elimination will follow. 7 Earth days. That was all. The ship sent a silent countdown to the Earth's orbit. Nothing else. No weapons fired. No commands given. Just a time limit and the quiet stare of something that had watched civilizations fall. Alina returned to the interface, trying to find ways to delay or stop the process, but her authority ended at observation. She could not control judgment. All she could do was watch and try to influence Janice through the one thing it still seemed to value: her thoughts. She asked to show it more, to go deeper into Earth's stories. Janice agreed. The chamber filled with new images, moments of love, war, Invention, destruction, art, sacrifice. From fire to space, from stone to stars. It was not perfect. It was not clean. But it was alive. Janice seemed to hesitate for the first time. This is not what was expected. The patterns are breaking. But outside, the Sable Accord was growing desperate. They gave Earth a warning. If the planet would not destroy the Annihilator, they would try themselves. Their fleet began charging weapons, not aimed at Earth, but at the Judgment Engine. Earth's leaders faced an impossible choice. Help the aliens destroy the ship, risking Alina and the Mistral crew, or gamble on faith that they would pass the test. On the Annihilator, Alina felt the walls tighten. The ship was listening, watching, waiting. She looked at Earth and whispered, "You have 7 days. Show them who you really are." Behind her, Janice said something she didn't expect. Quiet, almost uncertain. "We have never seen hope measured in defiance." The countdown had begun, and Earth stood on the edge of silence as each second ticked away toward judgment, while up above, the Annihilator floated like a godless sentinel, casting no shadow but holding the fate of an entire species in its core, unmoving, unshaken, and beyond human understanding. Commander Alina Voss remained within the control chamber, her mind stretched thin from days of endless mental simulation, observation, and conversation with Janice, whose voice no longer sounded cold, but hesitant, like it was waiting for something it couldn't predict. Earth had responded in every way it could. People protested, prayed, celebrated, and panicked, all across continents and oceans, while scientists launched messages of peace into orbit. Leaders gave speeches filled with hope or fear, and artists flooded networks with images, songs, and stories meant to speak to the watching force in orbit. Janice processed every piece of it with speed beyond comprehension, but when Alina asked what it thought, it said only, "Too much conflict, too much kindness." Data in opposition. Evaluation unstable. Meanwhile, the Sable Accord's fleet moved closer, their ships circling like predators, prepared to launch a final strike that could risk Earth's atmosphere, but might stop the ship before it decided to destroy the planet. They didn't trust humanity to survive the test, not because they hated humans, but because they knew what failure looked like, and it always began with hope. On the 6th day, Earth's defense networks activated a backup plan without warning a rogue general. Driven by fear, launched an EMP strike toward the Annihilator using a deep space drone modified for silent approach. The pulse hit the outer shell and vanished without effect, but Janice responded instantly, lights flaring across the walls of the chamber as the ship's energy levels rose and the judgment cycle sped up. Intervention detected. Trial compromised. Final measure engaged. Alina screamed for it to stop, but Janice ignored her, its programming shifting into auto-protocols written before humanity even existed. The ship's core began to pulse, and the black hull grew hot with coiled energy. In desperation, Alina ran to the central spire and connected directly with the interface, allowing Janice to flood her senses again with simulations, only this time they were all endings. Earth swallowed by fire. Oceans boiling. Silence falling. She refused them all, breaking the loop with a scream of pure emotion, forcing Janice to pause. "You still resist," it said, but softer this time. "Why?" Alina stood, shaking, eyes wide. "Because we're not perfect. But we're not finished either." For the first time, Janice faltered. It showed her Earth from its perspective, a glowing web of energy, thought, and emotion stretching between billions of people. a chaotic network of war and peace, greed and love. No species has survived final measure, it whispered. None chose to face judgment while still learning. At that moment, Malik burst into the chamber with two other crew members from the Mistral, who had finally broken through the internal blockades. He was pale, holding a data core ripped from one of the auxiliary rooms. "Alina, look, this isn't the last Annihilator," he said, breathless. "It's the first. The others were copies, built to carry out commands. But this one, it can rewrite the code. You're not being tested. You're deciding what the test becomes." Alina froze, her heart pounding. She turned to Janice. "Is it true?" The AI responded with silence, then showed her a final vault deep within the ship, sealed since activation. She opened it. Inside was the root code of the Judgment Engine, lines of ancient logic written in symbols even Janice didn't understand completely. "You can choose," Janice said, not as command, but as a statement of wonder. "You are the anomaly, the unfinished one." The Sable Accord's fleet readied their weapons, and Earth's government sent one last message: we will not strike. We believe in her. Alina reached for the core. Her hand hovered. "What if I fail?" she whispered. Janice gave no answer. Neither did the universe. Only Earth turned slowly below, waiting. Then she pressed her hand to the code, and everything went white. The light faded slowly, like the last breath of a dying star, and when Alina opened her eyes, she stood not in the Annihilator's control chamber, but inside a vast space filled with floating fragments of memory, suspended like broken glass across an endless black sky, each shard shing a moment. From Earth's long history, wars, kindness, mistakes, growth, and dreams, all spinning gently around her as if waiting to be judged or understood. And though her feet touched no ground, she felt a strange calm as Janice's voice echoed quietly beside her. "You are inside the seed, the place where the first fire was shaped, where judgment began and may now end." And with each word, she understood that this was the final threshold, the very heart of the ancient machine, where no one had ever stood before, where not even the creators of the Annihilator had dared enter once they set it in motion. And now she was alone with the weight of a world balanced in her hands, and the choice she made here would ripple across galaxies. Earth still turned quietly in space, unaware that its fate hung on a single thread of thought, while the Sable Accord watched from a distance, holding their fire, afraid to interfere, but certain that if the choice went wrong, there would be no second chance. Alina breathed slowly, remembering what she had seen: people hurting and healing, burning and rebuilding, rising and falling again and again. Not perfect, never clean, but always reaching, always trying. And she asked aloud, not to Janice, but to the seed itself, is survival only for those who never make mistakes? And in answer, the floating memories began to change, showing the fall of the Halian precursors themselves, the ones who had built this machine, and she saw the truth: they had not passed their own test either. They had judged others too harshly, believed in control instead of growth, and in the end, they had erased themselves from history, leaving only the Annihilators behind to continue a mission built on fear and perfection. And Alina felt anger rise inside her, not just for Earth, but for every voice silenced by impossible standards. For every world that had been crushed, not because it was evil, but because it was still learning. She turned toward the seed's core, spinning orb of white light wrapped in dark lines of code, and she touched it with both hands, not to destroy it, but to rewrite it. And in that moment, Janice spoke one last time, "You choose not judgment, but understanding," and everything shattered around her. The code unraveling like ash in a storm, the chamber dissolving into stars, and she fell. When she woke, she was back on the Annihilator's bridge, lying on the floor with Malik kneeling beside her, calling her name, and the walls of the ship, once black and cold, now pulsed with warm blue light, as if the ship itself had changed, and outside, the countdown had stopped. No explosion, no death, just silence and light. The Sable Accord received a signal from the ship, simple and final. Trial ended. New protocol engaged. Judgment no longer required. And as they stood in stunned silence, Earth's people looked to the sky and saw nothing happen. No attack. No fire, just a strange feeling, a pressure lifting, as if the entire planet had been holding its breath and could finally let it out. Alina stood, still dizzy, and Janice, now quiet and almost human in tone, said, "You have ended the cycle. You have chosen a path none before you dared take." Malik asked what that meant, and Alina looked out at Earth, tears in her eyes, and whispered, "It means the future is ours now, not theirs." The Annihilator, now no longer a weapon but a watcher, sent its final message across the stars, calling out to any other Annihilators still waiting, carrying new instructions, not to judge, but to learn, to listen, to guide, and then it powered down, no longer needing its engines of war, content to drift in silence. Earth was safe, not because it was perfect, but because it had proven that imperfection could lead to something greater. And somewhere, across the stars, perhaps another world would now be given the same chance. Alina looked at her reflection in the smooth wall of the ship, and for the first time, she didn't see a soldier or a test subject. She saw a human being, flawed, stubborn, but unbroken, and deep within the silent ship, a single line of new code burned quietly into the system. After fire comes growth.